exploring challenges and controversies in Jamaica's education and transportation systems.
Captures, well, all of them capture the essence of what we're doing around here and our mindset when it comes to education. This one, I think, captures it a little bit more than most of the others we've played. Here's what it says. True education empowers critical thinking. It breaks chains of ignorance and manipulation, fosters self-discipline, and enables individuals to challenge oppressive systems, turning them from passive recipients to active agents of change for a freer, more just world. It's all encompassing. Critical thinking, breaking chains of ignorance and manipulation, self-discipline, challenging oppressive systems, and turning people from passive recipients to active agents of change. But that sit with you for a little bit. Sit with you for a little bit. All right, move on. Hey, here's one of our favorites. Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. So I hope you're prepared today. Today, passport time, okay? It's the vase. And it's not about JPS. We're not ready for JPS yet. When you take a look at this, how many of you remember this? "55% of Jamaicans approve." And what that means, you see, what statistics is a hell of a thing. You know, when they say 55.1% of Jamaicans, they're talking about 55.1% of the people that they polled. Doesn't necessarily translate into 55.1% of all Jamaicans. Just the people, the sample that they use, tell you that that's the way they do it. But we need to be specific and let people know that it's not half of Jamaica, more than half of Jamaica said that them approve of this thing. It's more than half of the people that they talk to. And then the question comes up, who did they talk to? Who? You know, we have to look at the sampling. Who did they talk to? So, but anyway, the important thing here is that they launched it in September and said it's going to be free to all students starting in September and October. And if you recall, they said they were going to give 1 month grace. And so we want to know if it's, well, actually, they say we're going to give 1 month grace because they were going to charge $50. It says $50 round trip, something like that, or $50 each way. But they said free right here. They said free. But remember, we had told them that these buses were unsafe to begin with because of the fumes and all of that. And also, you remember, they did refurbishing and they did this and they did that. And they moved the door because remember, the door, it's an American school bus. So the driver sits on the left and the door for those buses, they're right across from the driver on the right. But that wouldn't work in Jamaica because, as you know, in Jamaica, they drive on the left. So it wouldn't work. So what did they do? They moved, they sealed off that door, and now the door is behind the driver. So the driver really can't see what's going on, depending on the location. Can't really see what's going on. And so now you have another problem on top of you have a safety problem on top of the emissions problem. But let me show you something. You remember this? You should. This was in October. Targets hit, but VAS admits hiccups in rural school bus rollout despite strong ridership numbers. Strong ridership numbers. Strong ridership numbers. Remember that phrase. Strong ridership numbers. Because we're going to show you what strong ridership numbers caused. So it says 1 month into operation, and the government's rural school bus program has exceeded expectations in ridership, Minister Vaz reported. At the same time, He admitted that the first phase has not been without challenges, including reports of students falling ill on buses, minor accidents, and logistical adjustments to route and schedules. Now remember, this man came out and said this is the best thing to happen in Jamaica since sliced bread. And now we, he might fall upon him sword and said, and this is October, and this has gotten worse since. Falling ill on buses, minor accidents, and logistical adjustments. Now, listen to this. He said, an average of 16,600 students travel on the buses daily, surpassing the ministry's target of 15,000 for the first 60 buses. Now, when he says first 60 buses, this is October, people. And remember what he said. 110 would be in Jamaica by the end of July. Yeah, there you go. And you're going to see right here. For the first 60 buses. So we're just, it's a second, like the first 60 buses, it sounds like he's saying, well, there's a second category or a second group of buses. And him on the top about the first 60. So where is the other 50? Is he saying they're not, is he saying at the time this was written, they were not in Jamaica? Or is he saying that only the first 60 that came?
They were not being used. They were not being used. That's what it is.
All right. No. Remember, we're saying that you have to have a bus monitor, and here is saying that some of the challenges include instances of disorderly behavior on the buses, as well as students falling ill during transit. Now, here is the key, and this is a quote. Minister Vaz speaking. I want to say it's not limited to the spats between the students. We have had medical incidents on the buses where students have passed out. Students have started to have bleeding through their nose, different things that have come up. And luckily, we have been able to coordinate with the driver and the JUTC and get the police or the medical assistance that's required. And thankfully, we have not had any major incident that has resulted in any death or injury. Now, when you said that spats between students, was anyone injured as a result of that?
Not in a major way.
But he said any death. We have not any major incident that has resulted in any death, or saying no major incident, right? So we have minor incident that resulted in injury.
No major incidents that reported in death does not necessarily mean there are no major incidents. However,
just resulted, right, right.
Let's go ahead and use the information that we're presenting.
Right. So yeah, the professor made a good point about the major incident that resulted in any death or injury. You could look at it and say they've had major incident, but there was like an accident, but there was no death and there was no injury, right? Or you could have had a minor incident that resulted in injury, but it's not reported here. So that's why you have to be careful with the language. But either way, people call it splitting hairs. But either way, I want you to just keep in mind that he said ridership increased and people are bleed to them nose and people are fight on the buses, but nothing major. I want you to tell me now if this is major. Let me take this off and put this on. Please tell me, people, if this one is major. Investigation ongoing after student allegedly pushed from bus. Now, here's the thing. For safety purposes in America, there is no standing on school buses. Nowhere. There is no standing alone. Everybody must have a seat. And remember, he said that these buses were, they passed the American standard, and that the American standard of safety was the gold standard, and he was going to employ it in Jamaica. But he never tell you that. People are going to stand up, because how do you push somebody from the bus if they're sitting? That means you grab them up, and then you have to open the door, or if the door is open already, for people to come in, then you throw them out. But then that would be a problem, because you throw them out while people coming in, and it's a narrow entry. Make it go on and look at the date, December 13th. Here it is. Listen to this, people. If you cannot read it, listen to this. JUTC says investigations are still ongoing into the circumstances that led to a female student being reportedly thrown from a moving yellow school bus in St. Mary earlier this month. Hear that? Thrown from a moving school bus. Not one where stop and people come off or go on or whatever. A moving school bus. It gets harrowing. Listen. The incident reportedly left a schoolgirl said to be a 14-year-old Marymount High School student from Buff Bay in Portland with injuries to her knees and face and unable to walk for nearly 2 weeks. That's major. Talk to me, Kevin.
It's not death.
Injury. Injury. He said death or injury.
Okay.
Right? But the question we have to ask ourselves is, how did this happen? Because if the bus is moving, then the door should have been. Well, here we go. It said in a release, right? JUTC said that at approximately 12:10 p.m. early afternoon, the bus driver was alerted by students that a passenger had been pushed from the vehicle. No, understand what's going on. No, the door is behind him, you know. And can't really see what's going on. Yeah, him have a side mirror, but him have to pay attention to what's coming and what's on the right side. What's on the right side. Now, it says the driver immediately stopped the bus, assessed the situation, and ensured that the student received urgent medical attention, the release stated. Listen to this. She was taken to the Unaccounted hospital where she was treated for injuries and subsequently released. There's something else I want to show you. The matter was immediately reported to the JCF and the bus was examined by the Island Traffic Authority. Initial assessments confirmed that there were no mechanical defects with the bus door. So how she end up outside? No mechanical defects, and it's the driver controlled the door, remember? The state-run bus company said, adding the incident remains under active investigation by both the police and JUTC's internal security team. There's something else here I saw that I wanted to. Here it is. In a release early Saturday, PNP caretaker Doreen Campbell demanded answers into the incident that she described as near tragic. No. Here is why. What I showed you earlier when I said ridership gone up. You're not supposed to have children standing in those buses. They're supposed to be seated. Safety. Look at this. The PNP caretaker claimed that the vehicle was overcrowded with children standing on the steps. She also said that it is alleged that another student who was a passenger pulled the emergency lever, causing the door to open and the girl to fall out of the bus. People, no, I was hoping I would be wrong when we criticize the purchase of these buses. But common sense, investigation, experience, and facts led me down the path to believe that it was a bad idea to buy American used school buses that they wanted to get rid of. And here it is. The bus was overcrowded and people were standing on the steps of a moving bus. Not only were they standing on the steps, it's two different stories. You know, you hear that she was pushed, and now you're hearing that somebody pulled the emergency lever, causing the door to open and the girl to fall out of the bus. So apparently, it would sound as if she was leaning against the door,
Right.
right? Sounds like she was leaning against. So two different versions of the same story. So she's lucky that the bus didn't run over her. She's lucky.
Or anything else.
She's lucky.
But here's my thing. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I've worked at a community center where I have had to pick up children from school, bring them to the community center. So there's a little bus that we drive. At one point in time, this bus had to be fitted with an alert system. But in addition to that, I never drove that bus without a second adult on it.
Mm.
Fortunately for me, the door wasn't behind me. It was to the side where I could open and close it as I saw it and where it was safe. So this whole idea of bringing these buses and retrofitting them, you're going to retrofit and don't even have a second adult on the bus? Because I'm yet to hear where we're transporting these children with a second adult other than the driver. And so you have an incident where the emergency release was activated. Cool. If there was another adult on the bus, then that wouldn't happen. One, the bus wasn't overloaded to the point where people were being pushed against the door. Then if the door went open because of some mischievous child, we've all been there. We wanted to press that button, pull that lever, turn that switch, whatever. That mischievous child could have very well undone the emergency door. As an adult, sometimes I look at the emergency lever on the train, I've ridden the tri-rail, and I've wondered what would happen if I pulled this. So, a child given the opportunity. Again, if there's an adult on the bus, I wouldn't have another adult other than a driver. If the bus wasn't overloaded to the point where they were pushing on the door, I wouldn't have, because the door would have opened and nobody would have followed. And why are these buses overloaded anyway? Shouldn't there be enough buses that they would have to have that? I'm so confused.
I am, and somebody in the chat said that she fell on her face. So apparently she was facing the door, and we don't even know. Well, they're saying somebody pushed her. Now we're hearing that maybe she wasn't pushed. Maybe the driver take a corner, and somebody pulled the lever and she just fell out of the bus. But nobody. See, the thing about it is this.
Either way, why are there so many children in the bus that if something like that happened, you're going to fall out? The only thing keeping them inside the bus was the fact that the bus didn't have a mechanical failure where the door would be opening by itself. These things can fail at any time. They're mechanical. Why are these buses packed to that point? That don't make no sense. So the success that is being referred to here, we're talking about the money that they weren't supposed to be charged, that they're paying to ride these buses and then overloading them. That accounts for the rideability, the numbers. What are we talking about here? How are we measuring this so-called success? Because even one child being reported in an incident like this is a complete failure. So tell me where the success is.
Yeah, this is frightening, and it's gonna get worse. Listen, folks, we normally don't do this, but I have a dear colleague of mine who's watching the program and he wants to make a contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mystic Sensation, Lord Byron. Come in, my brother.
All right. Blessing. First and foremost, let me just heal up all of the listeners right? Blessings to all of them. And Kevin Stew, big up yourself.
Much love, much love.
Professor now, innit? My professor now, innit? I've gone professor.
Okay, my bad. Kevin Stew, big up
Yes,
yourself.
sir.
All right. But Ratty,
Yeah.
what you are presenting here, it goes deeper than that.
Okay. Talk to us.
Let me just ask the question. Now you have as it relates to investigation coming out as it relates to overcrowdedness of the bus and all the sort. Now my question, Ratty, do we know as it relates to these drivers who are driving these school bus, were there any special workshop provided for them as it relates to educating them as it relates to them carrying children, right? The features that they're supposed to look for as it relates to potential dangers, and make sure that they prevent those dangers from happening. So we have to ask Ratty at this time, right? What sort of workshop provided for these drivers, the fact that they are carrying our nation children, and our nation children basically lives are in their hands. Have they done any workshop? This is what is important, Ratty.
Right. You're talking about workshop and training. Because
Yeah,
because
that's what I'm talking about.
because you do need special training to drive those buses. You can't just take a truck driver and put them out there. Yeah. That's a good question. We haven't asked it, but people of Jamaica, we need to start asking these questions whenever the minister shows up, because he just equated bus after bus after bus with light after light after light. So somebody should ask him about these buses. And apparently it looks like we don't have the 110, or at least as of the time that of the report that I showed, we didn't have 110. He said the first 60. So what happened to the 50?
Exactly, Ratty, because this is really a fundamental situation, right? We want to know who are these drivers? Were they properly screened, right? Because remember, in Canada, in the United States, you can't just bring off someone off the road just like that and just put them into a program, particularly when you're talking about, right? They are going to in the custodial of our children for whatever period of time those children are going to be on the buses, right? We have to know that, okay, all right, the drivers who are driving the bus, right? Security clearance, they are clean as it relates to any form of crime, particularly anything associated with children. These checks and balances need to be done, right? Overall, a workshop that have to deal with driving safely, right? And all of that workshop need to be executed as it relates to what are the potential problems that children will give on the bus, and how the drivers can mitigate those problems from occurring and reoccurring, right? So what is fundamentally important, Ratty, you understand, we have to ask the advice as it relates to these drivers. Were there workshop as it relates to educating these drivers as it relates to the entire safety of the children while our children are in their custody? And that is a fundamental importance, right? So if there's no workshop being done, then this is now a serious situation now with other advice. This is really serious if there's no workshop done.
That's true. That's true. We need to see the certificates of the training and the workshop to say that people are properly trained. Yeah. And I know
Who are we?
Go ahead.
Sorry, who are we allowing our children with maybe 15 minutes to a hour and a half, depending on, you understand, their journey, right? Who are these drivers that we are, chancing with our children, spending that right time with them? And how are we sure that these drivers, right, are capable enough to protect our children? The workshop is vitally important.
Yeah.
You know the only thing with that though, Mystic?
Okay, so that's my input. I will just hear back and listen and continue.
All right, my brother. Thanks for the call. Much appreciated.
Blessings.
All right.
let me say this, Mystic, and I know you're listening. The only thing with that is you're now placing expectations of a well thought out and planned system on a system that was just thrown together. So, whereas it is a logical expectation, it's an unfair expectation for this particular project, only because of what I just said. It was something that was just thrown together. There's no way that you could have actually thought this out. And we've addressed this before, but I don't see why we can't address it again. There's no way you could think out a system like this and not have some of those things in place. Somebody in the chat mentioned the cameras that were supposed to be fitting on these buses. Shouldn't the cameras have picked that up? Which camera are you talking about? What are you referring to? The cameras and GPS system and the all of these things that were supposed to be on these old buses, or sorry, retrofitted to these buses that are new to Jamaica. It wasn't fully thought out. One, it's a slapdash project. Two, safety systems are not in place. Three, and as it relates to who are these drivers, we don't know who the people driving the robot taxis and the other buses are either. And our children have been riding with these people all along. So where that is concerned, it's neither here nor there, because we don't know who the other people are. Anyway, we don't know who regular JUTC bus drivers are. We don't know who any of these people that are transporting our children or even adults. We don't know who they are. We say some of them have a badge, which means that they went through some type of training, some type of accreditation. Okay. But for the most part, we really don't know. Should we know? Different question. Should there be a registry of some sort that says, here are our drivers. They have gone through this type of training, through these programs. They know CPR, for one. Working with children, that was one of the things that I had to know. Now, whereas I've been trained in it, if you're with me and you start to choke, you might die because my can't expire. No. Going back to this, however. Working with children, this is one of the things that you have to know. Are these bus drivers for these buses, are they certified in CPR? Probably not. Why probably not? Because there's nothing else that is in place as it relates to safety on these buses and transporting our children. So to say that some of these things should be in place, yes, I agree totally. But it's an unfair expectation for a program like this that was not properly thought out or implemented. That's my take.
You know, well said. And we have to big up Mystic, big up yourself, big up Lady Anne Marie too. And people, remember Tuesday night, if it's Tuesday night, you have to check out Mystic Sensation. An outstanding program. This is a man who comes prepared. This is a man who does his work. And believe me, information flow like river over another corner. So please check out Mystic Sensation on a Tuesday night from 8:45 until the conversation done. So, but tune in. Now, somebody in the chat said that, and sometimes you have to make light of these things, because if you think hard about it, you get enraged, and you know, some people might want to do something, say something. But you said, look, remember, same basically, she said, him drunk the bus them, you know. Remember, same give the bus them rum. Somebody said, the bus them, I can't find it. I can't find it. Oh,
No.
Andrea, African UB. the Jerry and nephew train thing. All right.
Yes.
So
Right. And I'm not saying that we should not have expectations. Freedom is saying, why should we have low expectations because the government failed to do what they should have done? I'm not saying that we should have low expectations.
right.
I'm just saying it's an unfair expectation for something that was not properly planned out. Yes, we should have high expectations, but where do we place our value? Are we valuing our children to that level? Not so much, because we're not up in arms about what is happening with our children in the education system. This is a part of the whole education system. They're being transported to school. So where then do we place our energy and our expectations? Yes, they should be way up high. We should be talking out loud, not just us out here in the diaspora, but the people who are being affected directly in Jamaica. And we should be holding our assigned or elected officials accountable. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, JM, yeah, Portland Spies. Love the program, love the man. Yeah, we're gonna have him over here pretty soon. Not a problem.
Yeah, he's in the chat. Big up, Colin. Much love.
Yeah, Colin, big up yourself, Shaka. And then walk like a champion. I haven't heard this term in a long time. Bolo slush. I remember when we still go primary school. You said the buses ran election, bolo slush. So, but here's the thing. Here's another critical point. How many people have come out and raised hell about this since it happened? How many people? What about the journalists? What about civil society? What about the churches? How many people have come out and said, no, this cannot happen? And in fact, you know what, Kevin? The boss says, I don't know if we can, if we have it. Remember, you may have it. The school bus that they turned into a restaurant in Atlanta and in Jamaica.
I sent it to you.
Yeah, if you can find that.
I don't think we had put it up though. I might can't find it on my side.
All right. Well, if you do, then that's fine. If you don't, then fine. We'll move on. But if you find it, then go ahead.
In the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of an issue. But yeah, we can tell people about it. We don't have to necessarily show them.
Okay.
And it's things that you can do with the vehicles. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what they do with the decommissioned used old buses, they turn them into food trucks, and so they really don't drive that much.
Rolling restaurants.
Right. They don't drive that much. You just drive from A to B, park it, and then you just do whatever you need to do. It's not like a school bus where they might drive around constantly. Make stop here, make stop there, and then children them start bleed. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's horrific. But anyway, we'll move on now. And we'll touch Minister Tufton at this point. So Minister Tufton, if you're watching, pull up a chair. Remember we talked about the market. Yeah, we're not going to let this market meeting go, that 78 point something $million for what, 13 contracts, 13 or 15, I don't remember the number. We're not going to let this go away, people.
Well, we're not letting the drill go away either.
We're not letting the drill go away, and none of those things. We're not there. The 3 trillion, the 3 billion for security for Sarah. We're not going to let that go away. We're not going to let none of these things will go away.
No.
The water issue, because we did a piece. People, I don't know if you saw it. It says Jamaica, the land of wood and Bahamian water, because it was the Bahamas who give them water from using the desal plant. Even though Jamaica said that they have a desal plant and they're going to build desal plants all along the coastline. And I tell you what, but worry when them say they will build desal plants, because what go already with them, some of them contractors, it's not going to build right because they're going to thief the money. You know that. And so the first breeze come and go blow down the desal plant. So maybe it's a good thing we don't have the desal plant, but maybe it's a bad thing that we don't have the desal plant because people need water. So we're going to leave that right there. So I'm going to move on now to Minister Tufton and his friend, Lindsay McDonough. of Market Me fame. Now, I'm going to show you a document. And this is why people, and look, I am more than 1,000 miles away, more than 50. I'm far away from Jamaica. And Professor, if I can get these things and make noise about them, why is it that people in Jamaica can't get them and make noise right there too? I don't understand the silence, the acquiescence of these people. I just